In 2017, Joe Rogan had an experience that at first seemed shocking but ultimately revealed a much larger and darker story. Through one of his podcast guests, physicist Lawrence Krauss, Rogan was contacted by Jeffrey Epstein's team. Epstein wanted to meet him, and Krauss facilitated the introduction. Rogan, familiar with Epstein's history, immediately Googled his name, saw the 2008 conviction for soliciting a minor, and refused. His reaction was blunt and instinctive, asking Krauss, "Are you high? What the expletive are you talking about?" Rogan was listed in Epstein's files not because he attended any meeting, but because he explicitly refused. This small detail, though seemingly minor, became the gateway for Rogan to discover something far more alarming. As he dug deeper into Epstein-related documents, Rogan realized Epstein was not the person at the top. He was a middleman, a facilitator connecting some of the world's most powerful people to disturbing and criminal activities. What Rogan found in those files was so disturbing that he described it as literally demonic, with individuals above Epstein orchestrating and enjoying acts of violence and exploitation without regard for human life. The full scale of the Epstein network came into clearer focus in January 2026, when the Department of Justice released an unprecedented document dump related to the Epstein case. The release included over 3 million pages of documents, 180,000 images, and 2,000 videos. The public reaction was explosive. People immediately began searching through the files for names, trying to determine who visited Epstein's properties and who was involved in his activities. But almost immediately, it became apparent that the files had been heavily redacted. The most significant names, the ones that could reveal the true extent of the network, were blacked out or removed entirely. 2 members of Congress, one Republican and one Democrat, worked to uncover these protected names. They highlighted the shocking nature of the situation, comparing it to the Watergate scandal in terms of scale and impact. An email from the victims' lawyers to the DOJ, intended to prevent the release of certain names, was instead released, exposing victims' identities while leaving perpetrators partially hidden. The manipulation of these files exemplified the lengths to which the powerful could protect themselves while exposing those who had already suffered. The redactions also raised questions about why certain individuals' names, like billionaire Les Wexner and Dubai businessman Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, were protected. Wexner, the founder of Victoria's Secret and a significant figure in the business world, had given Epstein full power of attorney over his financial empire, allowing Epstein control over millions of dollars, properties, and access to influential people. The files suggest that this relationship was far from innocent or accidental. It positioned Epstein to leverage Wexner's connections for his operations. Despite being labeled a co-conspirator by the FBI, Wexner has not faced charges and remains free. Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem's involvement is similarly disturbing. A billionaire and chairman of DP World, a global port operator, his name appears over 5,000 times in Epstein-related documents. One email explicitly shows a casual, disturbing conversation in which he responds casually to content that involves extreme abuse. Bin Sulayem's name was repeatedly redacted in the files upon release to the public, likely due to his international influence and diplomatic connections. Even when the emails were revealed, he resigned from his position but faced no criminal charges. This selective protection of names illustrates the broader pattern of shielding the most powerful while leaving intermediaries exposed. Rogan's reaction throughout this process highlights both his instinct and his understanding of the larger system at play. When he read these files, it wasn't just the names or the content that shocked him, it was the realization of the network above Epstein. Epstein acted as the connector, enabling a system of abuse and trafficking that involved billionaires, powerful businessmen, and politically connected individuals. Rogan, having access to elite circles himself, recognized the scale of the danger and the moral depravity involved. His reflections reveal a chilling picture of human behavior among the elite and the systems in place to protect them. The pattern of protection and normalization of abuse extends beyond Epstein and his immediate network. Hollywood provides a clear example. While Oprah Winfrey has no documented involvement with Epstein, she was close to Harvey Weinstein for decades. During Weinstein's assaults, his victims often described how he leveraged his relationships with celebrities like Oprah to gain trust and access. Similarly, when Corey Feldman attempted to expose systemic abuse in Hollywood, he was publicly admonished for threatening the industry rather than being commended for exposing wrongdoing. These examples underscore a culture in which powerful individuals are shielded while victims are silenced and the public is misled. Tyler Perry's recent legal situation also reflects this system. Though he has no known connection to Epstein, he faced allegations from actor Derek Dixon of unwanted sexual advances and harassment. Dixon describes in his lawsuit the escalation of these incidents and references the idea that abuse is normalized in the industry, stating he initially believed it was part of the industry until he realized he couldn't stay silent. This normalization and protection of the powerful allows systems of abuse to persist across decades, industries, and countries. The public exposure of these systems, however, is not always straightforward. The 2023 release of the film Sound of Freedom, which tells the true story of Tim Ballard, a former Homeland Security agent rescuing children from trafficking networks, faced massive obstacles. Despite its real-world basis and compelling story, major studios refused to produce it for 5 years. When it was finally released, mainstream media outlets dismissed it as a conspiracy-driven film, and critics mocked viewers who supported it. The film illustrates how media and industry can actively suppress information that exposes trafficking networks, prioritizing reputational protection over truth. Audiences responded enthusiastically, highlighting the public's hunger for stories that expose real-world abuses, even in the face of institutional resistance. Throughout this saga, Rogan's initial experience, finding his name in Epstein's files, serves as the starting point for a much broader understanding of power, corruption, and protection. Epstein was not the architect of this system. He was a facilitator, connecting wealthy and influential people to criminal activity. Those above him, such as Wexner and bin Sulayem, wielded influence, wealth, and access that shielded them from accountability. Hollywood figures and other elites operate under similar dynamics where access, reputation, and normalization maintain their power and silence victims. The release of over 3 million pages of documents represents a partial look into this network, yet estimates suggest that the DOJ is still withholding approximately 2 million more documents. These unreleased files likely contain information that could further reveal the scale and scope of the system. Epstein's death did not end the network he served. The individuals above him continue to operate, often shielded by government institutions and international connections. Rogan's words, describing those at the top as literally demonic human beings who don't give an expletive about human lives, underscore the severity of the threat and the moral depravity involved. The case demonstrates a recurring pattern. Intermediaries like Epstein are caught, sometimes publicly shamed, while the ultimate perpetrators remain insulated from consequences. Wealth, political connections, and international influence allow these individuals to evade justice, manipulate public perception, and maintain their power. High-profile figures, whether in business, politics, or entertainment, are often part of systems that normalize abuse and prioritize protecting the powerful over victims. The exposure of the Epstein files and similar cases sheds light on the mechanisms of control, the moral compromises of elite networks, and the enduring challenge of seeking accountability. Ultimately, Rogan's journey from a single mention in a file to understanding the full scope of a global network illustrates how power, access, and corruption intersect to enable systemic abuse. It also reveals the ongoing tension between transparency and protection of the elite, as millions of documents remain unreleased and key names continue to be shielded. The broader lesson is that systems of abuse are maintained not only through direct actions, but through normalization, secrecy, and strategic protection of those at the top. Awareness, exposure, and public scrutiny are essential steps toward holding these individuals accountable and understanding the depth of the networks they operate within. The story is far from over, and as more information becomes public, it will continue to reshape our understanding of power, corruption, and complicity in elite systems.